impressions on,
Okay.
So on Facebook, city,
because I kind of,
page and
I read through it, I pretty much know where I'm
Yeah.
going. It's,
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they're looking for
it's not gonna be.
Okay,
a lot.
we're gonna get started. Welcome everyone to the very first Finance Committee meeting of 2023, January 9th at 6:01. I am here, I'm Katie Lepardue. John, are you here?
I am.
Okay, excellent. Dave, are you here?
I am here.
Okay, perfect. We don't yet see Scott Harrington, but that's okay. So I guess just to start out, I wanna just kind of take a minute, as most have been doing, to just publicly say that I wanna thank Glenn for chairing this committee for the last 2 years. When Mark told me I was gonna be on the finance committee, I was like, okay, I have a lot to learn. And it's because of Glenn that I have any semblance of an idea of what to do right now. So hopefully nobody regrets this decision. Okay, so all those who were there, does anyone have any comment on the December 27th meeting minutes? That's you, John. No, they look good to me. Okay, so we'll accept those by acclamation. First up, we have a presentation on the Sport Wilcox House Barn relocation project. It's kind of a mouthful. I'm very excited. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. I assume you're all here. We're all here. I know personally that the volunteers of the Sport Wilcox House work very hard and are very eager to come talk about it. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, I'm Norma Slaughter, and I'm representing the Friends of Sport Wilcox tonight. And we're asking approval to put a period barn on the property. I think all of you are probably familiar with the house itself and the property since it's part of the Parks Department. Okay, and I think you have a handout?
Yes.
Okay, each of you? All right. We have found an appropriate barn, which is on Crumhorn Mountain. And the owner of the barn is willing to donate the barn to the city.
That's cool.
Okay. So if you look at your handout that you have down here on the bottom, this is a picture of the original barn that was on the Wilcox property. Do you have one of those?
It's in your
I
packet.
have more.
It's in your packet.
Third page, John.
I'll take this for, maybe you have it, I don't know. Okay, all right. In the center is a picture of the barn that will be donated if we get your approval. And on the right is a diagram, and the little rectangle with the shaded area shows the site of the original barn. Okay, Wilcox Avenue would be over here in the margin, all right? And that little shaded area is where there was an archaeological study done when the house was being restored. The larger rectangle is where this David Moyer suggested that a relocated barn could be placed. Our plan would be to probably turn that barn 45 degrees so that the long part faced Riverside School,
Yeah.
and it would be more accessible from the driveway.
Okay.
Okay.
So
and-
just to clarify, I'm
No.
sorry to interrupt you. So I'm looking at the compass here. So basically we have the house,
Mhm.
and then if we're standing at Riverside School, we're looking at the house, the barn, the community garden.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah. And I think that the city is also planning on planting some apple trees
Yeah,
in the park. So
Yeah.
that probably would go, I would assume, by Wilcox Avenue.
yeah. That would be
Yeah.
nice.
In front of the barn, we're talking.
Okay, the size of the barn is 42 feet by 40 feet,
Right.
okay?
Okay.
So, but you're talking between, the orchard would go between the barn and Wilcox Ave? Would there be
Either
enough?
that or behind the barn between the barn and the community gardens. I'm not sure if that's been decided.
It hasn't been exactly decided, but that's
Yeah.
kind of what we've been discussing. If you put the barn kind of where the woods are now, in the woods there,
Yeah.
and you have the community garden, kind of creates an L shape, the orchard would go in that corner of the L.
Yeah, the only concern I would have about this is that we get everybody discussing this, so we have one concise plan, because that orchard's also gonna have to have fencing around it as well, so we wanna make sure everything meshes together,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, it definitely has to have a fence.
yeah.
Right, yeah, okay. So what we've done for some background, okay, we have found a barn, okay, we have someone who's willing to take the barn down, to transport it, and to reconstruct it on the site. Okay, and we also have a proposal from a structural engineer, and I think that's in your packets.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've talked with Chris many times, and actually the mayor's been down to visit the site. Had a meeting with us back in October, I think it was. So, you know, we've done some background, all right? In order to complete the project, we will have to have utilities to the building. Okay, we would have to have electricity, heat, water, sewer, you know, handicap accessibility. Okay, so the interior would have to be designed to meet those needs. And basically, we feel that we need a barn because we've run out of room in the house. We have so many artifacts that we really can't display them properly. We have meetings, for the last 20 years, we've had summer Sunday programs for the public.
Yeah.
And we have, you know, 35 to 50 people attending every Sunday during July and August. And we pray that we're gonna have nice weather because we can't put that many people inside. And, you know, we were even able to have the programs during COVID because people came with little lawn chairs and they spread out and it worked just fine. But if we have, you know, if we have a rainy season and people are prepared to do a program, we hate to turn them away. So if we had a space that was covered inside that could hold 50 people or 60 people, you know, that would enhance our programs. It would also give the city a chance to use that property for some large meetings if they needed to. Community groups could come. The garden club often will come and have their plant sale. That's for Wilcox. You know, if it rained, then their turnout isn't good. But you know, but if we had a covered area that people could use, and CCAL classes often will use the property. And we also feel that we need a climate-controlled storage area because we do have a lot of primary documents, we have textiles, and many things that really shouldn't be in a house that when the heat's turned back in the winter and it's damp. You know, even though we do have a dehumidifier that runs all the time, it's not the best thing for all of the documents we have there. You know, we have all of Henry Wilcox's diaries. We have 17 of them that have been transcribed, and we would hate to have them, you know, eventually mildew.
Right.
So we really feel that we need a larger space in order to carry out our programs and to, you know, keep the public mindful of the history that's there in the 6th Ward. So I don't know, do you have any questions about
I'm sure.
things
there
on
will
the
be
handout?
questions. Yeah.
Well, I guess for me, right now, the question is, what are you looking other than just approval to do this, what are you looking for from the city? And what are you looking from the city later on? Like, what costs are we looking at? Because I'm looking at the list of, the to-do list. So we're talking, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's the moving of the barn, it's putting a concrete slab down,
It would have to be put on, right,
Needs a foundation,
foundation,
utilities, full utilities, water, sewer,
Mhm.
electric, heating.
right.
So gas line, extending the gas line there, I'm assuming. And then also either extending the current driveway, is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Because right now the drive just ends at the top of the knoll,
right, right.
so probably that would have, you know, some kind of a.
That may or may not be asphalt.
No, we don't.
Gravel.
It would have to be a
Okay,
a
'cause
gravel.
it says one
They
or
wanna
the other,
maintain
and I
period.
thought asphalt would be a little bit
Yeah.
strange to have that.
Right, yeah, but because it's on the historic register, it would have to be a gravel drive.
So I guess, again, the question is, what are you looking from the city for?
Basically, I think we're looking for approval to
Approval.
move forward with this initial phase, to
Okay,
do the study for $1,750. Herman Engineering has reviewed it, we met with them, they have an understanding of the project, and he would put together a full cost estimate for design, construction, and construction administration to do the entire project, so we know what kind of budget we're looking at. We do have a Swart Wilcox fund, I believe, Jenny, is it 80,000?
It's around 90.
So we'd be asking to pay for this study with those funds.
Okay.
Yes, and we do plan to, you know, launch a fundraising campaign. We're looking for grants. You know, if Judy Pangman knows of any, if she could at least guide us. I don't know whether she would have time to actually write a grant for us, but.
well, she's already working on the grant for the orchard, so
Right.
I'm sure if there's anything else that's out there, she will
Right.
have her
Yeah,
eyes and ears to the ground looking for it,
yeah.
so.
We do have someone that said they, you know, could help with some grant writing as well. But I think that anything that the city could do would probably have more weight than someone who's looking, you know, at a grant from their angle. Do we want to help this group out?
Okay,
So right now, we're looking for basically the approval to go ahead and carry out the project. It's, you know, it's going to take probably a couple of years
At least.
for it to be completed.
With the initial phase being the study. We want to be able to do the study, determine what the actual costs are going to be, so we can have a budget to shoot for.
Yeah, so to
Yeah.
be clear, today what we're looking to approve is the initial phase, not the
Yes.
completion of the project.
Yes.
I mean, I think generally it's great. I totally understand the need for a covered space. And yeah, climate controlled things for historic artifacts is, you know, kind of critical. So, I think I have a couple of questions. You know, raised the first one, which is we're here primarily to talk about funding. And there's obviously plenty sufficient funding in the Sport Wilcox Fund, so that's good. I think I do have some questions about the project sort of further down the road, but I don't know that they need to be addressed here today. Yeah, I mean, I would be in support of this and of moving it up. How does everybody else feel? John, do you have any thoughts or questions? Yeah, I think it's a, you know, a really good use of a fund that's specifically dedicated. Jenny has something.
I just want to mention it will need a budget amendment approved by council to fund
Okay.
the project.
Okay.
For the initial phase.
Dave, what do you think?
I'm 100% in approval.
Cool.
of this.
Great.
This is
All right.
great.
You have your finance committee approval. Step like 1.001. We'll
So-
take it, right?
Where do we go from here now? We have your approval as a committee,
So,
so
yeah, so I
now
can answer
it goes,
it'll go to the full
goes
council.
to the council?
Yep, and that'll be on our next council meeting agenda, which is next
Okay.
Tuesday.
Will someone from SW need to come and present anything? Or will it be part of your
I
routine?
don't think so.
I'll be here.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
That'd be big for your website. Okay, cool.
All
Yeah,
right,
thank you so much for coming.
Well,
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, and thank you for all
Thank
the
you.
work that you do, preserving that
Okay,
part of our
yeah.
city's history.
You know, we do feel that this actually, could be expanded into something that the community uses more than,
Yeah.
does right now.
Yeah, I'm excited to have like a multi-use space for, historical education and
Right.
yeah, I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, we already work with the school system. The fourth graders come and they have a chance to do some
Yes.
hands-on things.
Yep.
And we worked with July this summer. That was a fun experience with 5 to 8-year-olds. But, and we are a group that, we like to make sure that the history is preserved, in the city. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, topic B, 14 to 18 D Street, Restore New York application, something that we've heard about previously, so I assume this is an update.
Yeah, I'll refer this.
Okay.
So the city filed an intent to apply for this project, which thankfully we were awarded.
Hey.
So we are now returning with a full application for 1418 Beach Street. The intent of this application is to secure funding for this project. It's approximately $1.7 million in grant funding, with the individual that would be doing the project contributing an additional up to $300,000 of funding.
Okay.
The project would be to rehabilitate several housing units as well as some commercial space located at the building. And overall, it's part of the DRI project, so there's some existing funding and state funding already tied into it. So this is kind of, in our mind, this application and ideally this award would be to fulfill kind of one of our long-term DRI project goals as well as our downtown improvement goals.
Yeah, it's kind of that like link, right, between the new Gates locks and everything that happened with the DRI, so it's sort of that missing piece.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited about it, and obviously the city's buy-in is essentially the $1,000 application fee, which is why it's here.
That's always the question at the
Yes.
finance committee, what's our buy-in?
Stephen, I was looking earlier to get the exact building this is.
It's the old Crystal Palace building, the building that Crystal Palace was in.
Get the
Okay.
law firm?
So, tell me one more time, it's a $1.7 million project?
Approximately. So there's
What's the plan for it? What's being done to that building?
currently that building is vacant, which is why it is. So Restore New York requires specific things. One of which is the building has to be either vacant or substantially vacant. So that building, the upper floors have been vacant for a long time. The commercial space on the main floor is currently mostly vacant. Those funds would be used to construct apartments in the upstairs, and then to redo the commercial space on the main floor so it can be brought back into use.
Is there some like abatement or mitigation?
So that building has a fairly substantial amount of asbestos. So part of this funding would be to mediate or remove that asbestos that's in the building. There's also some lead, but, so yeah, there's a fairly large environmental project there.
Okay.
Is there a public hearing associated with this?
There is.
As well?
Yep, this will be on the council agenda on the 17th.
Okay. Can I ask a weird practical question? What if this funding is not enough to cover all the remediation that needs to happen and to get it where they want it to go? What
So
happens to this
when we
building?
review these projects, when we just kind of look at projects that we were gonna put forward for these types of awards, we are as certain as we can be that the individual has the ability to complete this project.
Okay,
The idea of grant funding like this is to essentially make sure that we get the best project we can get, not that we can complete a project. We know that this project could theoretically be completed. The intent of the grant funding for this project is to make sure that we get the project that the city wants.
Okay.
So it's kind of I don't want to call it a cherry on top of the ice cream sundae, but ideally, in our best case scenario, this individual or the city's awarded this grant, these funds create not only a good project, but a great project. So we do not think that this project, we do not think that the asbestos or the lead or any of the kind of holdups in this project would result in the project not being completed.
Okay.
But we just want to ensure that this project is the best project that could be completed.
Okay. And do you think that the grant involvement is the criteria that's created by the grant that assures that? Or is it just the additional funding?
So the additional funding available for this makes sure that this project is the best project. So the grant criteria says that we have to take a building that is vacant or substantially vacant. It might have environmental issues. There is an opportunity to create affordable housing units. There's an opportunity to create economic development. That's what the grant criteria seeks to do.
Okay.
So when we apply for these grants, we're trying to hit as many of those criteria as possible. So this particular project hits all of those specific criteria, which makes it a great project and makes it likely to be awarded.
Okay.
So when we apply for these, when we look for a project, something like this is our best. It's not only the most likely to be awarded, but it's the most likely to bring that money into the downtown.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, great, thanks. Okay, oh, I do it, all right. Oh, okay, I will do that. D, local intel website tool update. Oh, I'm so excited for this.
Well,
Uh-oh. Should I not be? Oh, no.
city staff would, to cut to the chase, like to recommend that we not continue this. The renewal invoice would be around just over $4,000. Am I right, Harry? Remember initially, I think we had 1 year free of charge.
Okay.
And we've looked at, there's just really not much traffic to the site. I don't know if you have some data on that here.
Within the last 6 months, there were 4 hits on the site, and I'm fairly confident in saying that 3 of them were me.
And the other one was me.
Possibly.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Um,
Shoot.
it's not getting the traffic, and the data that we're getting from it is something that we can get out of a Google search.
Okay,
It's not the honed information that we really expected it would be.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just personally looking at it myself, like Jerry just said, I know there's businesses on there, I think there's no links, so it's really not as effective as just Googling,
Okay.
you know, food open in Oleana, everything that's available up to, you know, current time is available, whereas some of the stuff was outdated. I just think it's not maybe providing the value that we had hoped it would
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah, I think there's potential for that kind of thing, especially if there's more on our end. Like, I would love to like strategically place some QR codes for tourists, like where are you? What's going on? But if like then it takes them to like a dead end, basically, that's not really helpful. So maybe there's a different tool out there, but I hear you that this is not it.
This is just not it.
Okay.
So while it doesn't require any council action, since this kind of originated through a committee and council discussion, we want to make sure that we got your input before we opt to discontinue.
Gotcha.
And that's in this year's budget currently, isn't it?
That I do not know that it got included because we hadn't paid for it previously.
Right.
Oh,
So that'd be another issue. If we did decide to move forward,
Okay.
we have to make up the transfer.
okay. Yeah, I mean, either way, I guess we're saving $4,000 for a thing that is not really working, so.
Yeah.
Okay, bummer. I had high hopes. I was so excited. Okay, topic E, CSEA, MOA, and civilian dispatch coordinator appointment. Can we talk about this in like open?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, we had discussed discussed this, I think it was December 12th, Finance Committee meeting, and we had mentioned that we either bring it to the next council meeting, if it wasn't ready, we might bring it back to finance before we're going forward.
Right,
So this is
okay.
basically just an update that we're ready to move forward. We've drafted an MOA, we have tentative agreement with the CSEA for that memorandum of agreement to adopt the civilian dispatch coordinator title into CSEA. It doesn't exist now, it's a new title. It'll be CSEA grade 10, that's a starting salary of $38,392. That's what the MOA would be for, that'd be the first motion on the council agenda. The second motion would be to appoint someone to the position, which is why we were needing to create it. This would be a promotion of a current employee who's in the civilian dispatcher title to the civilian dispatch coordinator. Maybe I'll just read a quick excerpt from the description so you know what it is.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
the work involves responsibility for performing specialized clerical work at the Oneonta Police Department with an emphasis on supporting dispatch operations. An employee in this class utilizes knowledge of police and emergency dispatch procedures and exercises responsibility for the maintenance and review of departmental records and to evaluate the performance of dispatchers. That's a high-level overview.
Evaluate the performance, so this is really like a step into a supervisory role.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, there's still the supervisory responsibility of the dispatchers as a whole is, they won't be reporting to this position.
Okay.
However, this position does offer some oversight, some evaluation of the performance, feedback on that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
I don't think this position will be doing the actual reviews. And Joe, jump in if I.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think the evaluation that they do is also for training purposes and stuff like that. So because they're reviewing recorded calls, previous calls, those kinds of things, then it helps them kind of continually improve in that regard.
Okay,
So it's essentially, it's someone who's got quite a bit of experience and that's going to be filling the position and can impart that experience and training to the other lesser experienced dispatchers. So
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
No questions?
no?
it is budgeted as well.
Okay.
Okay, OPT lease extension.
This is for what's known as the bus store, OPT location on Main Street, Clinton Plaza. We've had a lease for the last 2 years, looking to extend that for 2 additional years. We're hoping that gets us through to, we'll hopefully be moving into a new building. I believe Dave Hoseling just confirmed Ginny to 3% increase.
Yeah, he
So they're
believes
looking
it's going to
for,
be a 3% increase.
Okay.
which we're okay with.
3% year over year, or 3%?
Well, he told me 3% for 2023, and I'm assuming it was the same for 2024, but I don't have the agreement in front of me. Yeah,
Okay.
they're still developing it.
Okay, will we get that before the council meeting?
Well, we will get the agreement before the council meeting. We don't usually share those agreements with the council, but
Okay.
we can inform you on what the agreement is.
That would be great, because I think before we vote on the 2-year contract, if we don't know what the second year of the contract is, that's not.
Yeah, we'll have the actual final numbers. They'll
Okay.
write in the motion, the amounts.
Okay, excellent, thanks. Any questions? Sorry.
Nope.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, do you wanna what do you wanna do here? They're both you, C and G.
C is my bad.
Well, no, there's no problem there, Ginny. It's not too bad. It's just we didn't have this prepared for this meeting, so C we can just bring back the next meeting.
Oh,
This is, quarterly. Typically, we like to give a report of all the budget transfers I've approved. I can approve up to $20,000 without council approval.
that's right.
So we have to report on those eventually. That's what this will be. But
Okay,
bring it
in
back
2
next
weeks.
time. Yeah,
Okay,
or
we'll put a pin in it.
okay.
Is it 3 weeks?
So,
Oh, yeah.
3 weeks, it's the end of the month.
Okay, 3 weeks.
Did everyone get a copy of the quarterly staffing updates?
Yes.
Would you like me to go through department by department? Are there any specific questions?
I
Which
I would like you to go, just because I didn't have a lot of time to review it, and I think since we're just like a new group, like a fresh, look at it, and then we can kind of talk about changes hereafter. Okay, cool. Thank you.
In no particular order, first page is finance department. I'll just, currently we have one vacancy, deputy finance director. Although we've advertised both deputy finance director and accountant, we would be filling one or the other, depending on what's best for the city, based on who applies.
Okay.
I believe deputy finance director, now is that
deadline coming up, and accountants already passed for applications.
Correct, yeah.
Both have exams, civil service exams scheduled, I think. Deputy Finance Director, that was, what, February 11th or 12th?
Yeah.
And the accountant as well as Finance Director, which we've advertised, those are
25th. Sorry?
January 20th.
Yes. Yep.
Those deadlines to apply have passed.
Okay.
As I mentioned, we are advertising Finance Director. Ginny's sitting right there. She's still Finance Director. She's not going anywhere anytime soon, but we are looking for her successor to be able to hopefully train somebody and have some overlap there, ensuring the long-term stability of the department. You want to go through the positions that are there but filled currently?
No, I think if they're filled, unless there's any sort of like we know there's a retirement coming up or anything like that where we could be a little bit prepared, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
And I guess that's it for finance at this point, unless you had something to
I
add in there, Ginny.
Okay.
Next is the clerk's office. We don't have any vacancies there.
Okay.
Human Resources Office, same thing.
Cool. Can we take a second?
Sure.
Joe, how is it going? It's been a couple months, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been busy, I guess, is a good way to describe it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're trying to report on a bunch of things, there's a lot going on, so.
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah. All kinds of things. You know, I mean, obviously, we've had a lot of positions posted. We're
Yeah.
trying to bring people in. So, and also just kind of, for me, getting the lay of the land in that role. So.
Yeah. How, we had talked about like training for you. How's that going? Is it mostly like hands-on?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, right now, it's just, you know, learning within the office. There is a civil service institute that's coming up, actually in February.
Cool.
You have to be nominated for it, but I may not qualify because of my current status in that position, being provisional versus permanent.
Oh, gotcha.
So we're trying to explore that, but if not, then certainly for the next one, we may still try and get in just to see if there's availability in it.
Yeah.
And then there's other trainings related to the position for, like the drug and alcohol testing programs that the city has. Those are upcoming later in the spring and stuff. So it's throughout the year. And then there's also, there's usually kind of like a conference that would apply to this office as well that happens. It's happened in, I think typically June in the past. I think last year was October. So
Okay.
that would be upcoming. The dates aren't announced yet for that. So there's certainly opportunities that are upcoming. And then I was also been looking around the municipal service division website, and there is some past information from the conferences and trainings that they've had, which I can
That's
access. Yep. So there's those as well. Trying to get connected with other people in that field from other municipalities as well as different resources. Trying to get onto some different lists, email lists for information shared. So there's, a bunch, and there may be even more, but, these are things we're either working at now or trying to get going already on the training side, for our office.
Awesome.
So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Next is community development, which we are full there as well.
Great.
You'll see a difference from the last time I shared this. I made a gold box if it's duties assigned by a stipend as, So
Okay.
in Stephen's case, he's acting as the deputy community development director as well as his code enforcement officer.
Hey, welcome.
Code enforcement next. We are full as far as full-timers there. We have one of our two allotted part-time labor positions or maintenance workers, depending on I think we've been hiring them as maintenance workers. We just recently hired a guy who knows helping out with some of the code enforcement stuff when there's not enough code enforcement work to be done. They're helping out in the parks or BPW as needed. So hopefully we'll be able to find another one to team up.
So question on that, because we just approved an additional full-time position for
I'm
this
sorry.
year's budget?
Yes.
Say ordinance inspector.
Okay,
Yeah. We didn't change the,
okay. It flew.
Yeah, we are obviously not, we haven't filled that yet. We're just tweaking the job description. It's gonna go to the Civil Service Commission on the I think that's on the 25th as well.
Okay.
And then we'll go advertise that.
We do have a potential retirement at about
Ooh.
so within the next
Yes, within the next year, or is there?
approximately.
Yeah,
Just
there's
keep in mind.
Is that a code enforcement inspector? Okay,
So we would have an opening there potentially.
okay.
So hopefully the ordinance inspector we hire will be someone we can train for that potentially. And
Ideally, that's what we kind of want to do.
Okay.
I show on here a vacancy for a student worker. I don't know if we're actively seeking one, but we've in the past had student workers throughout the year helping out in the office, and that's shown on here. 'Cause it's been budgeted.
And potentially that position could be filled by an intern as well. So that, then it theoretically would either be paid or unpaid, but we have some interest in intern positions.
Cool.
Now that COVID's done, we can finally take them back in.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, and I should mention, I don't have it listed on here because they're not budgeted positions, but internships, partnerships with the college related to community development are also a possibility. Starting this spring semester.
Yes, great.
Something Stephen has been working on for 6 months or so, college.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Central garage, we're full there.
Okay.
OPC, we're still looking for currently 4 part-time bus drivers.
Okay.
We're not actively looking for another full-time bus driver at the moment, although we do have technically a vacancy as per our budget. We also have a part-time labor vacancy. We have 2 of those budgeted. They are essentially bus cleaners,
Okay.
help out around the shop and cleaning the buses. The airport, see the gold box, that's Carrie, duties assigned via stipend as the airport manager. As approved at the last council meeting, the airport maintenance mechanic. Cool.
Cool.
Police department, we have a couple of part-time dispatcher vacancies. And we have several police officers.
Yeah, 3? Is that what it says?
Yep.
It's miniature on my computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
The ordinance inspector that's listed here is the same one that's listed on the code page. That's not the new position, that's Reese, she's our, she's
Sure.
3/4 police and 1/4 codes.
Okay.
Doing ordinance inspections, including parking enforcement, that's her main duties.
And they're just like an update on the officers, right? Is that did we give an exam for that? Or just interviews?
Yeah, there was an exam, it was last fall, September usually, I believe. There's been some interviews going and potentially some
Yes.
recommendations for hire coming. I'm not sure if they're ready for any of that yet, but.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, so the academy for that starts in late March.
Okay.
So there, you probably will hear some things coming, hopefully by the end of this month on that. So like Greg said, the interviews are completed. And then, there's a couple different processes that happen with the police candidates as that goes through, but we'll be bringing them forward so that the hope is to have the candidates available for the academy in March.
Yeah, cool. It's good to know where we are on that timeline.
Yep.
Thank you for that update. Cool.
Fire department, we've got 2 full-time firefighter vacancies.
Okay.
We have 2 firefighters that were recently hired that will be going to the fire academy beginning in February. 4 firefighters on staff who are currently attending paramedic school.
Cool.
What?
I just said cool.
We also have the first time, because this is a new position that was to be created, we haven't established this title yet, but it'll be something like, if not exactly, emergency management assistant, something Brian requested this budget. So 5, less than 10, probably 5 hours per week on average, type of position. I think we budgeted 5 hours per week throughout the year. Someone with some experience in emergency management that maybe will assist with updating our plans and
Yeah, okay, I remember
something
that
that
now.
Brian identified as be a good way to help out.
Mhm.
So that's something that we'll have to create the job description and then focus.
Yeah. So can I ask a question about operations at the fire department with so many folks in like the academy or in EMS training? Like how do they balance that?
Well, their departmental policy is 6 persons minimum per shift at
Right.
any given time, so if they drop below that number, they're calling in other firefighters on overtime to fill. So if someone goes on vacation, or someone's out sick, or someone's away at the academy training, or at paramedic school, or whatever it may be, that's how they're filling that. With our intent this year is to go to 7 per crew, keeping the minimum at 6. So that should help reduce drastically the amount of overtime we're paying to cover people just off for whatever reason.
Okay.
Whereas previously, basically all of last year, we had 6 or less per crew, so we covered the overtime. And extended absence due to injury or vacations or whatever. So that's the reason for the high amount of overtime. By going to 7 per crew, we're hoping it reduces that. Overall, cost-wise, we'll see where that ends up. It's not gonna be huge savings to the city. Obviously, we're 4 additional full-time firefighters in terms of the packages that we're paying for.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I mean, in kind of a roundabout way is that, you know, they are consistently having to call people back in for overtime, which, you know, we know is not sustainable, so. Yeah, Joe looks like he has
Can I
something.
just jump into, just as we were talking exam before, is that we do have a firefighter exam upcoming. The exam is on February 11th, but the application is due this Thursday.
Okay.
We have done some different advertising approaches for that, so we've been trying to see what will come through, but just in the last week, we've gotten a number more applications, so
Cool, good.
we're hopeful we'll have a good turnout for that.
Yeah, I saw you and the chief were at the mall.
Yep, we've done
Dressed
the
up, recruiting.
job there at the mall.
That was great. Cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that more applications have come through.
Yeah, and there's still time.
Yes.
Hopefully we get
Thursday.
more Thursday. Yeah.
Okay.
If they're mailed, as long as they're postmarked by that date, we can accept them
Ooh,
as well, so the numbers could go up after that as well.
cool, good.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So, keeping with the 6, and we're putting 7 on, if one goes out for extended, we're not gonna put the 7th one into the rotation, it's just gonna be 6. Unless there's a vacation or something, then obviously we have to run overtime to backfill into the 6. Right, that's the theory.
Okay.
Public Works, the initial page here is just showing the breakdown, because there's several different
Yeah.
Crews within public works.
The next page is the breakdown of administration, engineering. On that third line, civil engineer / project manager,
That exact title will be determined in the next couple of weeks. We'll bring, if there's a new title or a tweak to a title, we need to go through the Civil Service Commission for that. That's the newly budgeted position. That will be
entirely grant funded. Through a lot of grants we get, we can be reimbursed for our staff time. So not only this position, but other people who are working on those projects, we can record our time and be reimbursed for that through the grant. Given the number of grants that we have, especially infrastructure grants, the water plant upgrade, wastewater plant upgrade phase 2, number of other grants that we'll be applying for. There's plenty of work to be done, and fortunately we're able to fund this position through those grants. So we'll be hopefully filling that out in the next few months.
Cool.
we have a seasonal engineering aide that's usually over the summer. That's currently vacant. Engineering technician, part-time vacant, that's filled typically seasonally for construction operation and that sort of thing. So those are not, well, we're looking for someone for this construction season as an engineering technician, engineering aide, but they're not, causing a negative impact on the product right now. Chris, you have anything to add?
It'd just be a person to observe the construction on River Street for the summer.
Next page, the Public Works Buildings and Grounds crew. We've got a maintenance worker vacancy, although I think we might have, is that one of the ones we're looking
looking to?
Water, sewer, and streets, we interviewed 6 people today, and we had 2 really good candidates. Hopefully they'll accept. I don't know, did you get a chance to call them back today?
No, we're still working on that process, but we were gonna bring that up a little later, but no, it's fine, I mean, it's fine to bring it up now.
Okay.
Yeah, the hope is that as we complete that process this week, that we could, with your approval, we could bring it to the council on Tuesday so that we can have those appointments.
Gotcha.
As Chris said, they were just completed today, the interviews, and then because of the calendar, this time we have a longer break between finance meetings, so it would be about a month before we'd be able to bring them in for the waivers, but,
Yeah.
so, as Chris said, one on the water sewer crew, one on the streets crew, both maintenance worker titles,
Okay.
CSEA positions, so,
Yeah, I mean, the big question always is that they're budgeted
yeah, yes.
positions. Yeah,
Actually,
that's fine with me.
The water, sewer, I think we're doing water distribution mechanic.
The title, you mean?
Yeah.
I thought when I talked to John, we were gonna move forward with the maintenance worker and change that if needed based on qualifications, so. Is that all right?
Possibly.
Yeah, so one of the candidates may qualify for a different position, title,
Okay.
but because of the application that was made, the way the application was made, we have to make sure that they meet all of the appropriate requirements for that title, which was also advertised, so
Okay,
if we
that's
can
good then.
determine that they have the appropriate experience, we would be able to, bring that in at a different, but again, budgeted, I think all these positions, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, I think the vacancies are budgeted vacancies, they're just unfilled, there's no new positions we've talked about adding at this point in time.
Right.
Okay.
Right, I won't show
A vacancy on here, or any position on here if it's not budgeted, that would be something we talk about
Okay,
before it happens.
okay,
and
great.
typically not something we would do mid-year.
Without those 2, we had, currently right now, have 2 vacancies in streets, 2 vacancies on water sewer, and 1 vacancy on building and grounds. And I think the majority of them have been open since the middle of summer. So it's been very difficult. We've interviewed many people. It's just been very difficult to fill the positions.
Yeah, and you had mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was like, us versus the private sector kind of thing.
Yes,
Okay.
it is. I think it really boils down to salary.
Mhm.
Is one issue. There were a few candidates that we had some trouble getting to the finish line between the interview and actual hiring.
Mhm.
So those weren't related to salary, but
Yeah, and I think it's not just private, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I think there's also competition with other municipalities,
yes.
that is still salary based.
Salary based, okay.
But we're doing a salary,
Generation.
we're doing a salary study, so hopefully it'll be,
That's underway now, Joe and I've had a call with the Burke Group recently, and they're gonna be,
Oh,
they hope to have a draft to us within a few weeks, probably sometime in February, I would imagine we would be having something to share.
Yeah, we've kind of got our list of information to gather and provide to them, and then from that, turn around, seem relatively timely.
Cool.
So that's, we're just gathering the information right now,
Nice,
which some has already been done, I think previously, but we're just filling out the list.
okay.
I really
Yeah.
hope we can fill these positions quickly. We spent a significant amount of time interviewing. I can't even count the number of people I've interviewed in the last year. We lost 8 people this year. We hired 8 new people. We still have these 5 positions open. And so if we can get them filled and hopefully have some happy people that want to stick around, and I can focus on other things. But
Yeah, that's such a good consideration, is
Yeah.
how much of your time is spent
yeah, that's a
on
lot.
that.
I bet it's at least 10 to 15% of my time. Yeah. Interviewing, talking
Yeah.
to Joe.
Yeah, scheduling takes time too, it's definitely a process, and I think, certainly the salary study, and if there's anything that can be done in that regard, that may help, because retention obviously reduces the need for hiring new people, but, we're certainly working, I think Chris tries to make it a good place to work as well.
Yeah.
We really sell it good. We do our best.
Good.
We do have one other vacancy that I didn't mention, which is the chief operator at the water treatment plant.
Mhm.
Stan Schaefer recently retired. He's sticking on as a part-time chief operator. We do have a candidate within the water treatment plant that is interested in the chief operator position, but they do not currently hold a 1A license, which is required to be the chief operator. They're lacking 2 courses. He's signed up for 1 course, and he's looking for the other course, so hopefully maybe midsummer he'll have his licensure, and he's a potential candidate.
Great. That's someone internal?
It's internal.
Okay.
Okay. I guess to finish off with buildings and grounds, we have a labor seasonal vacancy listed there. That's a summer position. That's the gardener. If you want to call it that, the person that maintains the various plantings around the city.
Okay.
Streets crew, as Chris mentioned, we got 2 vacancies there currently. Parks crew, vacancies listed again are seasonal. Those are summer seasonal vacancies. High school, college students typically filling those roles as part-time student workers or laborers.
Okay.
Water and sewer crew, we have 2 vacancies, including the new one, right? I've listed them as heavy equipment operators. They'll be filled depending on the qualifications of the candidate, as we were talking about before. It might be a water distribution maintenance mechanic, which is the same grade, same pay rate as heavy equipment operator, or it might be a little bit lower type of maintenance worker if they're not quite qualified and they're gonna be working up to those. Next is the water treatment plant, Chris mentioned, I'm showing chief water plant operator as being filled as a part-time position because where Stan's role is now. Obviously, if we're able to promote or hire a new chief water plant operator later this year, that'll change. So right now, the vacancy, we do have a vacancy also as a water plant operator or trainee, depending on what we can get, so.
Okay. So overall, you're looking to add 2 full-time people in a variety of titles at the water treatment plant?
We have 1 actual vacancy, but.
Right.
If, assuming that if we promote someone internally, then there'd be vacancy to fill below that. So we have 1 vacancy. Right
1
now.
vacancy.
Sorry.
Okay.
I got confused on that.
Well, I was just also thinking about Stan being part-time, that we would need to fill that, and then he would probably go, would he retire fully?
We haven't had a final conversation on that. He's agreed to this year.
Okay.
He's been working weekends, so the guys don't have to work weekend shifts, because we have 7-day coverage. But I don't know how long he's looking to stay on. 73,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's the part-time position he's filling now was not one that existed prior to his retirement.
Right.
So it's not necessarily something that we would need to fill, in order to operate the plant at normal capacity.
Right, I guess I was thinking if he stayed on part-time as something, I guess that was my question, is like, what's his intent, and how does that affect
I think it's
the
fluid.
overall staffing?
Depending on his willingness to stay on, then we're open to that.
Yeah,
We're budgeted
absolutely.
For it for the whole year.
Okay.
His experience and.
If Stan wants to stay here in perpetuity, I think we're all for
Right,
it.
yeah, okay, cool. Okay, we can move on, thanks, guys.
Wastewater plant, we're full there except for a labor seasonal vacancy, which is a summer position.
Okay,
That brings us to the end.
okay. Great, thank you so much.
Sure, and I guess just to follow up on what Joe was saying, we did want to see if we could add those 2 items at the end, if you're okay with that,
Yes,
if we're ready to bring
for following.
potentially 2 hires to council for the public works.
Yeah. Thoughts from the group? Anyone opposed to that?
I'm not opposed to it, no.
No? Okay, great. Great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please, if you have something.
I think Jenny had another
Okay.
kind of ad.
I have 2 items to add.
Ginny, I made it just under the wire. All right.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I had one when I walked in the door.
Oh
but
my
now I have
goodness.
2. I just was handed a restricted donation for the Fort Wilcox,
Great.
so I'll need to take that to council to accept.
Yes, please.
And they also would like it as a 2022 contribution. That's the date of the check.
Okay, gotcha.
And so, and we can legally do that.
Okay, I have a very specific yet unrelated question about that after the meeting.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the second thing, I just got off the phone before I came up here for finance with, Turner Bradford, our representative from McFarland Johnson, who's our airport consultant.
Okay.
He informed me that there is a, DOT is, reissuing the same grant program that we were awarded for the fuel farm. And, we can apply for 2 grants under this program. One would be for additional funds to fully fund the construction of the fuel farm. That would be 1.5 million. It would require a local portion of 10%, which would be 150,000.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, we've already approved $1 million into the local portion of 100,000.
So we're looking at 250 then.
We'd be looking at 250 for that. And the second grant that they would like to apply for is to replace a T-hanger, and that's a $2 million grant, which would require a 10% a local match. You can
Okay.
apply for 2 grants, but you can only get 1 awarded.
Oh.
And they have a point system, and also they have a available fund process. You know, so if they only have $5 million to distribute, they may take it based on the total cost of the project. And so they judge your preferred one first. You have like grant A, grant B.
Okay.
So you put it in your priority list. And if priority A does not score well enough, then they'll go to your priority B and see where the score is for that grant.
Okay.
The kicker to this is the application is due Wednesday,
Like
this Wednesday,
2 days from now?
like 2 days from now.
Okay, and who writes this grant?
Well,
Application.
McFarland and Johnson would be submitting the grant. However, what I said to Turner is that we haven't taken it to council to get approval to apply for the grant. And he said to me that he has some municipalities that don't take it to council for approval, that they only take it to council to accept the grant. I said, that's not how we do it here. I haven't had enough time to discuss it with Greg, or to discuss it with Dave Merzig, and I asked him what the grant guidelines were, you know, as far as, does it need a motion to apply for the grant? So I can't give you a proper answer on that regulation. So if you don't, I would like your feedback if this is something that you want, you know, council to take action on. But I would also like tomorrow to have some time to investigate if we actually have to have a motion to apply for it, or if we can do it retroactively. That's what I want to ask Dave Merzig, if we can take the motion next Tuesday, even though the application is due on Wednesday. So,
Yeah, please.
I see no risk for us to apply for the grant. It's not gonna cost anything to apply for the grant, and even if it were approved, the grant, we don't have to necessarily accept the grant, correct?
right, the only thing that I want to make sure of is in the application, I don't know if it says, has the locality agreed to its local portion? That's what I want to make sure of.
Ginny, I mean, if we look back, the motion to apply for the fuel farm grant, the first time around, did that specify? I'm sure it did, a number.
I'm sure it did,
So,
because the,
what will match up to
matter of
your
fact, they're resolutions, the airport, the DOT airport, motions are resolutions, and we have to say that we're agreeing to the local match. However, let me find out if that's mandated, so I'd like tomorrow to be able to investigate that. So I'll work with Carrie Ann. So I'm sorry to spring this on everyone.
Tell me that one again. You said 250.
Yeah, there's an existing grant, sorry, the existing.
What was the grant for the fuel farm?
1.5, that would be the additional on top of the 1 million that we already have.
Oh, geez, so I was wrong.
And what's the match for the 1.5?
150,000. And then
Are you certain that that's on top of the existing grant?
yes, that's what he told, I specifically asked him that question.
I thought the last time we did that project, it came in around 1.5, but I'll take whatever Turner
Yeah,
says.
I specifically, I said, is this in addition to, or is this to replace the 900,000? And he said, no, it's in addition to what we already have.
And the
That's a
T
10% also, I'm sorry, that's a 10% also the one, okay.
T-hanger grant was,
Was 2 million?
and 10%?
Yeah, so it'd be 200,000.
Thanks,
So,
Ginny.
yeah, the only
The one thing that I didn't mention, and I'm sorry I didn't mention this, he said the T hanger will eventually need to be replaced once the apron gets extended. So that would also be in the future.
I think I can say without a doubt that the fuel farm is a higher priority. It's an underground fuel tank, it needs to be replaced. We don't want to find out in the future, having not replaced it, that it's leaking in the watershed. That has to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not having enough money for that, since the prices came back higher, was a big problem, and this seems like a potential solution for that, so.
And from what I understand, if the fuel farm doesn't get replaced and relocated, it stifles the future expansion of what they want to do there.
It does.
I was just saying that's our priority list
Yeah,
right there, so, yeah, this all makes sense.
Yeah, just looking at our infrastructure, our capital plan, I'm not sure if a T-hanger replacement is on there at this point. I know it is on the master plan, but it's not on the 5-year capital.
We need to be done for it.
I think
That's if this happens, then this happens, then this happens, kind of,
What's it down the road?
yeah.
Okay. So, how do we proceed? Do you want a verbal?
Well, if it's okay, I would like tomorrow to investigate it a little bit. I'll talk to Greg, I'll talk to Carrie, then we'll notify everyone. And then, we can get an answer back to Turner to get the application in by Wednesday.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
Which one are we agreeing to, the 1.5 or the 2 or both, or?
I believe they'll apply for both, but I think the consensus is that the fuel farm is the priority.
Yeah, cause I was trying to follow what you said, but we may not get to 1.5, we may only get to 2 million. Or did I hear you wrong?
No, you heard me right, that it will be graded based on points. I'm not sure how they determine the points in their judgment of the grant application. But I'm thinking the fuel farm, since we already have one grant for the fuel farm, and we've gone out to bid for it, 3 different times, I think that would score higher points, in the evaluation. But that's just my personal opinion.
There's a bigger need for the fuel farm and their environmental concerns with not moving forward with the fuel farm, so I could see them prioritizing that.
I think I'm being a little dense here, but if we got the $2 million one, but not the 1.5, but we really wanna get the fuel farm done, wouldn't we be better off trying to get the fuel farm done and not going for the 2 million?
I asked Turner if we'd be competing against ourselves, and he told me no. He said what it is, you're able to put 2 grants in, but they're judged independently, so you're not competing against yourself.
Or I'm just saying, it'd be our.
It's in case we don't get the one, we still have a chance of getting the other one, but the priority is the fuel farm one.
No, I think
Told
I
you
understand now.
confidence.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, I'm just
saying,
saying,
but
in
if
our
for the
luck,
fuel-
we'll get the T-hanger one and not the.
It's not gonna count against us for applying for the fuel farm.
but then,
Right, but what happens if we get the T-hanger?
I think it's unlikely that we'll end up with the T-hanger grant, just to the fact that there are no structural issues, there's nothing environmental, there's nothing in our immediate foreseeable future that requires a T-hanger construction.
And we also
Well, I think
have to get the apron extension completed
Right,
before
there-
the T-hanger can even be considered.
Other things that have to happen before that can even come into play. So even if you just look at them priority-wise, I think FAA is gonna look at the environmental and immediate need versus the construction
So-
for development.
I'm now with Scott, because if we can only get one, and we only plan on doing one, why would we apply for both of them?
She just said applying for both they don't fight each other, so, applying for the T-hanger grant is not gonna impact whether or not they issue the fuel farm grant.
But if we have no plan to spend $200,000 to move the T-hanger,
You just turn it down.
okay.
But would this go like, kinda like with the state, like if you turn it down, it's gonna hurt you in the future?
Future.
You know, that's what I'm just kinda thinking, cause like we were saying that once about a road project, and I remember you saying, Greg, if we turn it down, it kinda hurts us in the long run.
Well, I think that was more getting it back after it's been awarded.
I don't know how DOT aviation side of things would score if that would be a consideration. But I would generally agree, and keep in mind, okay, the local match, where is that coming from? General fund, unrestricted reserves.
Right.
There's nowhere else it's coming from, where else you're cutting another general fund service, which obviously we've done that. So, we're not gonna get both, right?
We're not gonna get right to it.
You can only get one.
If somehow we were to get the T hangar and not the fuel farm needs to be done. That means we need to come up with another $1.5 million on our own. So do we wanna be spending $200,000 on a T hangar we don't need right now? I think the priority's clear. I don't know if we need to apply for both, but.
As I said, I got off the phone with Turner about 4 minutes before the meeting started, and I told him I would call him back.
I mean, I'm 100% for going for the fuel farm,
Totally.
100% behind it.
Yes. Yes.
Well, if we know that we're not gonna spend the money on a T hanger, then
Yeah.
there's the answer. I guess we don't apply for it.
Like what Jenny said, we'll call Turner back tomorrow.
Yeah.
If we have any different information or information, we'll share that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Okay, cool. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to discuss? Okay, so you all know that I'm one to kind of consider what's historically been done, but then also generally do something different. So this should come as no surprise that I would like to begin to use these meetings less as like a checklist and more of like a work session. I think that there was a lot of really great discussion. Sorry, I'm learning to not talk over people because I'm really eager. I'm very excited, but I will get better. So I would love for, one of the big things that we've been talking about for the 2, 3, how long have we been on council? A couple years.
I think we're starting
3
the
years.
4th year.
It's crazy. Is revenue generation, right? So I would love for us to do some homework and bring ideas forward to this meeting and have a dedicated time to be able to talk about ways that we can shift the burden off of taxpayers for the increasing costs of the city. So I know I have a couple of things that I'm excited to talk about, and in conversations with other people on the committee, that there might be a few things that we can talk about. It doesn't have to be a regular expectation, but like everybody's got to bring something, but just be thinking about it and just know that like a committee can be a proactive thing, and I would like to see, us go that route a little bit more than we have in the past.